To the world, he was the unstoppable action hero, the master of Aikido, the guy who was always above the law, under siege, and marked for death. Steven Seagal wasn't just an actor. He was a brand of bone-crunching justice that defined a whole era of action movies. But what happens when that legacy of combat, that aura of untouchable toughness, gets passed down? What happens when it's inherited by a daughter who isn't looking to copy her dad's legacy, but to forge a new one in an even more brutal arena? This isn't just another story of a celebrity kid trying on a new career for size. This is a story about a dream that was shattered into a million pieces. It's about a fall into a dark place, and the incredible, grueling comeback that has the entire wrestling world talking. So forget what you think you know about wrestling dynasties. This is the story of how Arissa LeBrock is escaping the colossal shadow of a Hollywood legend to build her own legacy. Not on a film set, but in the unforgiving world of professional wrestling. Imagine being born at the intersection of two iconic legacies. On one side, your father is Steven Seagal, the stoic, ponytailed martial arts phenom who dominated the box office. His whole persona was built on being a quiet, lethal force, a real-life warrior who just happened to be in movies. On the other side, your mother is Kelly LeBrock, the supermodel and actress who was, for millions, the literal woman in red, a symbol of 80s beauty and cinematic fantasy made real in films like Weird Science, Beauty and the Beast, Hollywood glamour and martial arts grit. It sounds like the perfect genetic recipe for a superstar, right? But for their daughter, Arissa LeBrock, this lineage wasn't a golden ticket. It was a mountain, a colossal shadow that could have easily swallowed her whole. The world expected her to be one of two things, a model like her mom or an action hero like her dad. And for a while, she followed that path. But the entire time, a different fire was burning inside her. The world wanted her to play a role. She wanted to be a fighter. Arissa LeBrock was born directly into Hollywood royalty, but her story quickly takes a sharp turn from the typical celebrity kid narrative. Following the high-profile and difficult divorce of her parents, her mother, Kelly LeBrock, made a life-altering decision. She packed up the family and moved them far away from the toxic bubble of Beverly Hills, landing on a quiet ranch in the Santa Ynez Valley. It was a world away from red carpets and paparazzi, and this wasn't an accident. It was a deliberate choice to give her children a grounded upbringing, to let them grow up among normal people. This experience gave Arissa a sense of self that was totally separate from her famous last name. While her father's legacy was built on almost mythical levels of on-screen violence, her reality was all about hard work, open spaces, and a quiet resilience forged far from the Hollywood machine. As she got older, she did step into one of the roles the world expected, following her mother's footsteps into modeling. But even here, she did it on her own terms. Embracing her powerful athletic build, a clear inheritance from her Seagal side, she became a successful plus-size model. She even starred in a reality show called Growing Up Supermodel. In a world that often demands conformity, Arissa was already showing she wanted to define her own standards of beauty and strength, becoming a voice for body positivity. But while she was finding success in fashion, another part of her heritage was quietly taking over. Not the choreographed fights of her father's movies, but the raw, unglamorous world of legitimate combat sports. While Steven Seagal is a 7th Dan black belt in Aikido, a defensive martial art, Arissa was drawn to a different, more grueling discipline, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. BJJ is often called the gentle art, but it's anything but. It's a punishing chess match on the ground, a world of chokes and joint locks designed to methodically submit an opponent. It's a discipline that requires thousands of hours of sparring or rolling, where you are constantly pushed to your breaking point. Arissa didn't just train. She dedicated herself to it with a ferocity that proved the warrior spirit was in her blood. She wasn't a celebrity dabbling in a hobby. She was a serious competitor. She trained relentlessly, sometimes up to 6 times a week, and tested her skills in official competitions. Her dedication paid off in a huge way when she earned a silver medal as a blue belt at the prestigious 2019 IBJJF World Championship, a major accomplishment that cemented her as a legitimate martial artist. This wasn't Aikido. This wasn't for a movie. This was real. She was building a foundation of authentic combat skill, one painful training session at a time. It was this unique combination, a model's charisma and a BJJ practitioner's proven toughness, that made her an almost perfect prospect for the world of sports entertainment. And in late 2019, the biggest wrestling company in the world agreed. In December 2019, the call every aspiring wrestler dreams of finally came. World Wrestling Entertainment, WWE, invited Arissa for a multi-day tryout at their world-renowned performance center in Orlando, Florida. This was the golden ticket. The WWE PC is a factory where dreams are either made or brutally crushed. The buzz in the wrestling world was immediate. Here was a promoter's dream, the daughter of an action icon, a model with TV experience, and a proven, legit martial artist. She had the look, the lineage, and the skills. Fans were already fantasy booking her future. This was her chance to prove she was more than just a famous name. She was ready to step out of the shadow and into the spotlight. And then, in an instant, it was all torn away. Shortly after that grueling tryout, disaster struck. Arissa suffered a severe injury. It wasn't a minor sprain. It was the kind of thing that puts a hard stop on a career. Think about that for a second. You chase this impossible dream, you push your body to its absolute limit, and you're standing on the very edge of a new beginning. And then, one wrong move, and it's gone. The injury was bad enough that it didn't just sideline her, it forced her to walk away from wrestling entirely. The dream was over. For someone with other successful careers to fall back on, this would have been a clear sign to quit. The buzz around her name died down, and the wrestling world moved on. What followed was a period of immense struggle. A major injury takes a physical toll, but the psychological damage can be far worse. Arissa disappeared from the wrestling radar. She later admitted with incredible honesty that the setback sent her into a deep, dark place. In her own words, she confessed, "I realized that I had become comfortable in the darkest, worst place in my life. For years, it seemed like her wrestling story was over before it ever began. Just a tragic piece of trivia about the action star's daughter whose dream was crushed. But in wrestling, the greatest stories are always about the comeback." While she was off the grid, a lifeline came from one of the most respected figures in the entire industry. Dustin Rhodes. The world knows him as the bizarre and brilliant Goldust from WWE, but he's also a master of reinvention and a deeply respected coach. As the son of the legendary American Dream Dusty Rhodes, Dustin understands the burden of legacy better than almost anyone. He knows what it's like to fight for your own identity in the shadow of a famous father. He saw a kindred spirit in Arissa. He didn't see a failed prospect. He saw untapped potential. So he made a phone call. He reached out and offered her a second chance, an opportunity to train at his school, the Rhodes Wrestling Academy in Austin, Texas. That call was the turning point. It was the spark she needed to fight her way out of the darkness. In her own words, she realized, "It was time for me to give every ounce of passion within me to professional wrestling." Arissa made the monumental decision to leave her life behind and dedicate herself completely to the craft. The Rhodes Wrestling Academy is a different universe from the polished WWE Performance Center. It's an old-school dojo, a place built on sweat, respect, and the grueling fundamentals of the sport. At a place like this, you are not a famous name. You are a student. You learn how to take bumps, run the ropes, and command a crowd. You earn your stripes with pain. Under Dustin's personal guidance, Arissa began the hard process of rebuilding herself from the ground up. It wasn't just about healing her body. It was about reforging her extensive BJJ background for the squared circle. She had to learn how to translate her legitimate fighting skills into the unique language of wrestling, blending her deadly submissions with storytelling and showmanship. Dustin Rhodes didn't care who her father was. He saw her work ethic and her raw potential. He praised her progress publicly, stating, "She's doing a great job, but this is only the beginning for her." He saw a wrestler in the making, someone earning their place through pure hard work. He was so confident that he made a bold prediction. Pretty soon, the whole world's going to be talking about Arissa LeBrock. After months of this relentless training, the moment of truth finally arrived. In March of 2023, inside an intimate venue in Austin, Texas, a bell rang. This wasn't a sold-out stadium. There were no TV cameras or pyro. This was a student showcase for the Rhodes Wrestling Academy, held in front of a small, passionate crowd of hardcore fans, the kind of audience that gets the journey it takes just to step through those ropes. It was here, far from the blinding lights of Hollywood, that Arissa LeBrock made her official in-ring debut. When she walked down that aisle, the transformation was complete. She wasn't Steven Seagal's daughter. She wasn't a former model. She was a survivor. She was a professional wrestler who had beaten a major injury and crippling self-doubt. She had earned this moment. From the second the bell rang, it was clear this wasn't a gimmick. Her style was a compelling fusion of everything she is: raw power, a predator's intensity, and the devastating submission skills honed on the BJJ mats. When the match went to the ground, she was on another level, fluidly turning standard wrestling holds into legitimate chokes and joint locks. Reports from the showcase confirmed she was victorious in her debut. The small crowd had witnessed the birth of something new and authentic. This wasn't just a debut, it was a statement. In the center of that ring, she had finally stepped out of her parents' massive shadows. Since that debut, her journey has been one of paying her dues on the independent circuit, performing at smaller events and building her reputation from the ground up. She's proving that a famous name isn't a free pass. If anything, it's a heavier burden. She's taking the hard road, earning respect through skill, not status. Arissa LeBrock's story is so much more than a debut. It's a powerful lesson in resilience. She was born with the weight of two iconic legacies, but she has chosen to define herself by her own scars and her own strength. The injury that once seemed like a career-ending nightmare was actually a necessary detour. It stripped everything away and forced her to build her career the hard way. She isn't taking a shortcut to glory. She's grinding it out in small venues for passionate fans. She carries her father's legacy of combat, but she's translated it into her own language. Where he had the cinematic grace of Aikido, she has the gritty, suffocating reality of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Her emerging persona as a killer in the ring isn't just a character she's playing, it's a reflection of the person she had to become to survive her journey. The path that started with crushing disappointment has now turned into one of the most compelling comeback stories in modern wrestling. She didn't just accept the legacy she was handed, she is redefining it with her own sweat and sacrifice. The question is no longer if Arissa LeBrock will make it to a major stage like WWE or AEW. The question is how big of an impact she'll make when she gets there. Dustin Rhodes' prediction looms large. The whole world may very well be talking about Arissa LeBrock soon. And when they do, it won't be because of who her father is, but because of the formidable competitor she chose to become. What do you think the future holds for Arissa LeBrock? Should her path eventually lead back to WWE to finish the story that started at that fateful tryout, or would she be a better fit alongside her mentor Dustin Rhodes in AEW? Let us know your dream scenario down in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this story, do us a huge favor and hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the stories that are shaping the future of professional wrestling.